Listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart, and this time I'm going to be showing you this house I made out of lava in the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. How did I go about doing this? Well, that's what we're talking about today. But before we go any further, let me point out that we are aiming to hit 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so if you do enjoy my content, please subscribe and hit that notification bell, and while it may be a tough goal to achieve with your help, it might be possible. So when I got to this shrine, which is the Kadnar Shrine, which I found in the South Elden Sky Archipelago, and the way I accessed it was through the Elden Canyon Skyview Tower, but when I got into this shrine, I saw lava, I saw hydrants shooting out water, landing on the lava, cooling it down, creating platforms. And it was at this point I wondered, how much can I push this? How many can I put together? Can I build a structure? And I wondered, well, what if I built an entire house on lava or of lava, because all of these platforms are made of lava. But in order to do this, I needed to obtain a better understanding of what my limitations were. So I went ahead and I stuck everything together as much as I could, and I realized that the limit in terms of attaching is 20. Now 20 isn't a small number, but in order to create what I want, it's a bit limiting. For example, with this giant platform I created, it wouldn't even make up 3 entire walls if each wall is 3 by 3, so I had to adjust things somewhat. And I had to be smarter about how I use my attachments. So what I eventually came to realize is that maybe I don't have to attach every single block. Maybe I can rely on both buoyancy and gravity to get a lot more done. So the entire floor for this house is not attached at all. It's all just a whole bunch of platforms floating in the lava. And I also made sure to take advantage of the wall to the side so I could already have one natural wall. It's one less wall to make. And I also had it so some of the platforms were attached to the floor in the back. That way I could have something that was a little bit more sturdy for a floor as opposed to these floating platforms on the lava. And it was tricky. It took 3 different renditions before I finally came to a house. I started at one point and I gave up and I went to the back because there was more walls there, but then I decided that was too small and it felt like kind of cheating a bit. I really wanted to create something that felt like a legitimate house. So I went back here and I just created a lot more floor this time. And in order to avoid getting hit by lava as much, I stacked even more of these platforms on top of each other. And I started to wonder, what's the limitation for these platforms, for these cooldown pieces of lava from the water? I never bothered actually counting, but I did eventually find out that there was a limit. And that eventually became a challenge, but first was establishing the foundations. I got the foundations together, and then I started piecing together the walls, one section at a time, and I did it separately at the corner so I could take advantage of the perfect right angles to structure around these materials for my house. And eventually it dawned on me, hey, there's a second hydrant. Maybe I should do something with this. At first I thought maybe I could put it a little bit closer to the house so that way it wouldn't take me as much time to pull the platforms in, but I came up with a different idea. I decided I could use it to make a shower room, and it worked out pretty well, but this did account for one of my attachments. But as I continued on, even with my third effort and trying to be efficient with the different platforms using a floor without any attachments, it still wasn't going to get the job done. So I created a giant pillar. Without any attachments, I simply stacked one platform after another, after another, after another. And it was at this point I wondered, maybe I could create an entire wall like this. But after doing that, I then came to realize that there was indeed a limit for the platforms and I had to go in a different direction. But I still had at least one giant column that I could use as a bit of a support. It was still a little shaky because none of these platforms were actually glued to each other, so they could move a little bit, and there was also the lava that did move things around as well because they were all technically floating on the lava. So things definitely got messy. I fell into lava repeatedly, platforms broke down and fell repeatedly as well. There was a number of times where I had to reconfigure some things, but fortunately nothing broke down too much to where I had to start entirely over. And this was part of the reasons why I decided to do each piece at a time separately in a separate area, that way I could be more organized about it and put it together more neatly. And eventually I got a structure together that was kind of working. I ended up pushing back the wall a little bit because of some unintended destruction, but I thought it could kind of work out because I still had a few attachments left and all I needed was a roof. And I had some trouble with this trying to bridge things over, but eventually came to me that, well, what if I just relied on gravity again? So I took the blocks, and yes, this was challenging trying to get them up. I had to raise them, then climb, and then raise them again, because you do have some limitation in terms of how much you can raise these platforms and how much you can see vertically when you're moving around things with Ultra Hand. So I had to do it in steps. And there was definitely some trial and error here, but I slowly and carefully placed these platforms on top of each other in a way where they were just sticking on thanks to gravity. I wasn't using the Ultra Hand attachment. And eventually I came to something that looked somewhat resembling of a roof. Yes, there are some holes, it is not perfect, but I felt pretty good about this. So I went in, I took some light seed roots and I attached them to the walls to create a little bit more lighting. I put some jewels in the front to make it look a little bit more decorative, and I tried to put a fire inside of the shrine, but I realized that you can't actually create a campfire on top of these platforms. You have to do it on normal floor. So for a while, I just decided to just have it outside. I had a little back entrance, so that would be fine. So it would technically work, but after experimenting a little bit more afterwards, I accidentally destroyed a piece of the house because there is a limit with the platforms as well, and they will disappear. So I had to fix things up just a little bit, but fortunately not that much broke, and it ended up being a happy accident that one of the platforms that I did have attached was no longer on the floor, and I had some exposed shrine floor within the house. So then I was allowed to place down my wood and flint and create a campfire inside of the house. So all of a sudden, I have lighting, I have fire so I can cook food, I have a shower room, a secure roof with set walls, and a nice little entrance. And it's a house. It's a house made out of lava in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It was possible, but now I'm definitely curious what else can be done in this game. Could it be possible to build a house made out of water? What if we were to somehow establish some sort of village or city in the sky? Can we build other kinds of structures, maybe like a giant rocket ship, or potentially even kind of like a submarine, which might require glitching the game a little bit, but there's all sorts of things I would like to try at one point or another. If you guys have any other crazy ideas, let me know in the comments below. This is Andres Restart, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.